Hi, I'm Dave, the Fumbling Foodie, and today I want to show you how to make pasta. Now, before you hit the back button or go someplace else because you say, oh, I know how to make pasta, I've seen a bazillion videos on how to make pasta. I want to tell you that this is a method that's a combination of 3 or 4 methods that I have learned, and this allows you to make pasta very quickly, very easily, with minimal mess and cleanup. You can decide 45 minutes before dinner time that you want to have fresh homemade pasta for dinner, and using this method you can do it. Now let's go over the tools that I'm going to use, just a few simple tools. The first one is a pasta machine. This is a machine from Imperia. I just looked it up on Amazon.com and it's about $55. I bought this machine many years ago. They could have changed. It comes with 2 sets of cutters that will make 4 sizes of noodles. We're going to use a common ordinary scraper. I particularly like this scraper because it's got a rounded edge in the back that I can scrape in this bowl very easily. We're going to use a small mixing bowl. We're going to use a scale, and surprisingly, we're going to use a strainer. Most of us no longer own flour sifters, and so this is going to substitute for a flour sifter. When we get farther on in the process, you'll see me use it. Next, I want to talk about the formula. It's very easy to remember. Most people, when they want to make pasta for the first time, they don't know how many eggs, they don't know how much flour, and so on. So, very easy. It's simply 2 rules. First rule is 1 egg per serving, and then it's 2 parts egg and 3 parts flour. I'm going to show you how to do that really easy. I'm sure that you've seen all of the cooking shows in which they pile the flour on the counter and they make a well in the middle and they crack the egg and they gently measure and so on and so forth. And the first time you try that, you're going to make a big mess. I'm going to show you how to do it without that mess. It's not as showy, but it works. Okay, we're going to make 1 serving of pasta. We have our bowl on the scale. We have the scale zeroed, so you would turn the scale on, put your empty mixing bowl on top, zero out the scale so that it reads 0 grams when there is nothing in the bowl. We're going to crack our egg and put it in the bowl. Break up the yolk so that you've combined the yolk and the white thoroughly. And then we're going to simply read what the scale says. My scale says 56 grams. So what you do is you take that weight, multiply it by 1.5, and that's how much flour you add. So with 56 grams of egg, multiply 56 by 1.5, and you get 84. And so we're going to add 84 grams of flour to this. And the 84 grams of flour plus the 56 grams of eggs gets us to a total of 140 grams. So I'm simply going to add flour to this mixing bowl until I get to 140 grams. And now that gets us in the ballpark. Now we're just going to use the scraper to gently combine this egg and this flour, like so. It's going to be soupy at first, and then you're going to get to the point where you're going to say, oh my gosh, I've got way too much flour. No, you don't. This is beginning to come together very nicely. And you can see exactly how I'm simply moving this around in the bowl. And we've got that now pretty well to the point where we can dump it out on the counter and we can finish working it. So I'm just simply going to take this, dump it out on the counter like so, set that aside, and proceed to begin to work it with my fingers. And we're going to work it very gently. Going to use the scraper to fold it back over on itself and pick up the pieces. And so we're using our fingertips here to simply knead the dough and to fold the dough like so. And see, this dough is already beginning to come together. Gonna flip it over. Now you can see it's stuck a little bit, so we need a little flour. Here's where our strainer comes in. We're gonna take a little flour, put it in the strainer, and simply use that to lightly dust the dough. And so this is a trick that I was taught by a French chef. This is actually coming together very, very well. I just fold the dough over on itself and use my fingertips to press it out. And we really want to work this into a little rectangle that is roughly the width of our pasta machine, so it fits in there very nicely. This is coming together very, very well. This dough is almost ready now to run through the pasta machine. Now, if you go to a pasta class at one of the famous kitchen stores, they're going to have you knead this dough and knead it and knead it and knead it, and then you're going to put it in the refrigerator for an hour to let it rest, and so on and so forth. That's just going to make your dough tough. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to let the pasta machine do some of the work for us. And so here's a piece of dough. This is now ready to go into the pasta machine. Okay, so we're going to take the dough and we're going to run through the pasta machine. This pasta machine has two rollers in it, and there's a knob here that allows us to set the distance between the rollers. Mine is numbered from 1 to 6, with 1 being the widest and 6 being the narrowest. We'll start at 1. And we'll simply stuff this dough in here, and you can see it's just about almost perfectly the right width. And we're going to crank it through the pasta machine just like this. Okay? It's come through once. I'm going to pull it out here. I can feel it's a little sticky, and so it's going to need a little more flour. Okay, carefully flip it over. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. You see how easy this works for flouring. Okay. Going to run it through on the widest setting again. Okay. By the way, the Italian word for this, I don't know what the word is, but it translates to tongue. It's now ready to be moved to the next narrower setting, and we're just simply going to stuff this piece of dough in here, this piece of pasta in here on the narrower setting, crank it through. All right, still flour looking pretty good. Go to the next narrower setting. And we're simply going to keep doing that, running it through twice the first time on the widest setting, running it through then once on each respective narrower setting. As you're running this dough through, when it comes out, check it and make sure it's not tacky. I can feel that the edge of this dough here is just a tiny bit tacky, so we're going to sprinkle it with some more flour before we run it through on the next step. Okay, now we're ready to make noodles. I've done two things. When I finished that long strip of pasta, I used my bench, my scraper, to cut it into 3 sections that are each about noodle length. And I attached one of the cutters here to the pasta machine. We're going to make fettuccine noodles here. And so now it's just a simple matter of taking this piece of pasta and putting the end over the cutter And out the other side come fresh pasta noodles. So at this point, you just want to take these noodles, drop them into salted boiling water, and unlike the dried pasta that you buy in the grocery store, this pasta will take about a minute to cook. You'll drop it in, and when you start to see it float to the top, it's done. And the longer you leave it in, essentially the tougher it's going to get. And I find for me a minute, maybe 90 seconds is about as long as I leave it in there. And then scoop it out and put it on the plate with some sauce, and you're ready to go. It's that simple. This little video here, as you can see, is not very long, and we made pasta. So, bon appetit!